I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest with you. People are going to ask about it. I don't really want to talk about it, but I am 9 years old. Hello and welcome back to The Squirt Show. I'm your host, Squirty Tom, and today we'll be taking a look at the top 10 squirters on the internet.
I am hurting for a squirt. Did she really just say that?
I'm just kidding, guys. Okay, look, I was yanking your chain there. I was being a little bit dishonest even. You know we like to have fun over here on the Tom Dark channel. The squirt tent can actually be found on my new channel, youtube.com/squirtytom. Hit that like button if you know a real squirter. And speaking of someone who looks like they could use a little bit of a squirt, today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite internet Minnesota lawyer, Nicholas Rekieta. Ever since I made my first video on him 4 months ago, which by the way, if you haven't watched it, I would recommend watching it. You probably should. Not because it's about Nick or because it's like a good video, but because I made it. But maybe do it after watching this one. Nick has continued on his downward spiral with no end in sight, and it looks like this guy actually needs some serious help. So today, I'm a psychologist, I'm a therapist, and I'm gonna be giving him some help. But for those of you who need a little bit of a catch up on today's patient, Nick Rekieta is a law YouTuber that got to start reviewing niche lolcow-centered trials. But eventually, he wanted to grow his channel bigger like everyone does, and obviously covering very niche lolcow drama and lolcow lawsuits is not the most interesting thing to the mainstream. So he switched to covering bigger, more important topics like the Rittenhouse trial or the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case, and he did very well doing that. He's also the heir to millions of dollars via his mom's inheritance, and as such, he's been pretty much able to shitpost online as much as he wants and not really worry much about the money, despite the fact he claims to have grown up on like on the streets of Texas, Maine, on P Block. Lil P, man, hey, we don't do no fucking around here, man. We from P Block, bitch. Pull the fuck up, white boy. You gonna get gritty on my block? Put some goddamn respect on the Rekieta name, goddamn it. Real talk, boy. Real talk, boy.
I'm just a dumb motherfucking who's never heard of the streets. I don't know about the streets, right? I don't know where you grew up, but where I grew up was the #1 crime neighborhood in Houston, Texas in the 80s. People got shot every day.
Nick was generally really well liked in the YouTube community, and he seemed to have found a pretty good niche to make content in. But cracks started showing with two big traits that would eventually define him: degeneracy and drugs.
I'm just a white bread.
It all started when Nick became obsessed with a thing called a baldo, which for those who don't know, it is a tool. It is a craftsman's tool. You can buy it maybe Ace Hardware or Lowe's or somewhere like that, you know, Home Depot. And essentially what you do with this is you take your flesh spheres, you take your flesh spheres and you put them into it, and it forms a shaft so that you can double insert yourself into whatever sort of Bojiden hole you're trying to get into. It's kind of graphic. I'm sorry, I do have to go there a little bit, but essentially, you know, it turns your balls into another shaft. So you have two shafts. And Nick was a really big fan of this. He sung its praises. He was repping the product, and he wasn't even paid to do it. I mean, he was an honest salesman. He was giving it a boom. Nick himself could also be seen serenading other women and baiting them to post explicit photos in his Discord, despite having a wife and kids. And it's not like the wife was mad about that either. Oh no, in case there's any speculation, she actually was into it. She enjoyed this. He would talk about going to nude beaches, pole dancing parties, all that fun stuff. And all this culminated in him and his wife posting pictures of a bottle up someone's ass on the internet. They posted a picture of a bottle inside of one of their assholes online. Which is obviously, you know, different. It's different. So this got a lot of people speculating on what they were doing. They were suspecting they were into some CUCK stuff, going to some swinger parties, maybe even. And unfortunately, that does seem to be the case. They were in an open relationship, and people were just really curious about what was going on, especially because Nick, you know, he branded himself as this conservative Christian lawyer guy. He's a family man, and obviously, you know, on the conservative side of the political spectrum, especially, they're not the kinds of guys that are going to be like, oh, you're going to sex parties with your wife and getting your back blown out. You're getting your asshole resized by a bottle of Miller Lite. Base! No, they're not that kind of people. People speculated on if he and his wife were in an open relationship, which his wife denied, but it did later turn out to be completely true. Some autists over on Kiwi Farms figured out the vacation spot he had gone to with his wife. They determined it was a prominent swinger spot, and so the cat was basically out of the bag at that point. They knew something weird's going on with Nick. It was like, hey Nick, I like you, man. I like your content, but what's going on, big guy? What's going on, big guy? Nick, you're supposed to be this shining image of conservatism, and yet you're putting bottles in your butt, and yet your wife is getting blown out by DeQuavius. What's going on here, Nick? That's not normal. Nick, I heard your wife is accepting Malteser flavored disco stick. That is not in line with my conservative values, is it? And also at this time, Nick would do something very dangerous, which is that he would wear the Sonashu medallion, which basically sealed his fate. It allowed the Sonashu demon to latch onto his soul. And past that point, I mean, I think we could have predicted basically everything that would happen. Maybe not the details, but we knew it was going to get bad.
I got to this anonymous letter, or the anonymous package. It was postage not paid. Like I had to pay the postage on it to receive it. And the post office like, well, where was it sent from? And it had my address as the return address with me as the sendee, which is not true. And in it had this burned piece of paper, which I feel like I'm going to get serial here. It says, the stars are aligned. A new host is chosen. Hail unto thee, Nick Chan Rakatachu. And then with that came this. And this was so weird because this came before the mention of Sonic in the trademark dispute that we were talking about last night. A Sonichu medallion.
And unfortunately, from this point on, the ritual was successful in all the wrong ways. Nick's alcoholism and drug use would become much more apparent on streams. He would have these stints where he was like, all right, I'm going to have no drinking months. I'm not drinking this month. I'm not drinking for a few months. And he would fail every single time. He couldn't stop himself from dipping back into the bottle. And it's actually kind of sad. Like, the guy was literally becoming an alcoholic in real time on live stream. But something else people noticed was that Nick was becoming a bit of a thinspo king. Okay, he was looking a lot thinner in his videos. He was looking a lot less healthy on streams. He was also shaking a lot more and showing several signs of some kind of addiction to some kind of, stuff. I too love cocaine. There would be these bathroom breaks where he was disappearing for long stretches of time on his streams. At first it was like 5 minutes, then it was 10 minutes, then it was 30 minutes, then it was like hours. Literally, he would be gone on stream and people didn't know what was going on. But the speculation obviously was that he was doing some kind of nose candy in the bathroom, perhaps while this was going on, and maybe getting up to other salacious activities that, a conservative Christian man would not be viewed positively for doing. There's this one now deleted stream where he looks absolutely off his rocker. Like, Buddy looks horrendous, okay? Buddy looks absolutely down bad, horrendously off the za. During the same stream, Nick would also get a donation, and the donation contained fat, furry inflation stuff. And for some reason, he forgot that the donation had already happened, maybe because he was really, really high. So he just kept letting it repeat over and over and over and over again.
Why would you do this? Why now?
But pretty soon after this, people making fun of him online would be the least of his concerns, because he would actually be arrested over concerns about child neglect. The cops would find 25 grams of white, pure Colombian Lucky Charms, as well as an assortment of narcotics and other firearms near each other, which you're not really supposed to do. He was living in Minnesota while cosplaying as like the lawyer version of Scarface. Like, bro, you're in Somaliland, okay? It is over for you. You can't do that. Fox News and the Daily Mail would both cover this story, pretty much like the meat and potatoes as far as catch-up goes. They would go pretty in depth, which is different for mainstream sources. Typically, they don't cover YouTube stuff, so that just shows you how well known he was and how big this controversy really got. And probably the most horrifying of all of this is that some other documents will get leaked, revealing that one of his 9-year-old kids had tested positive for cocaine in their hair. But we do have to keep in mind here, this isn't 100% proof of anything, as one KF user explains pretty well. Debate has raged in the thread, spurred by experts, internet experts, and Baldo himself, as to the exact meaning of this result. The effects on the results based on immature physiology, the type of test, the error associated with the test, and other factors. So these are all things that can play into, like, maybe why this test came up positive. But they go on to write, what is known is that having even 1 out of 5 test positive is definitely not a good look. And they're definitely right. It's not good to have cocaine in children within throwing distance. That's just not a good thing. Now, from this point on, Nick went kind of lawyer mode. He was like, all right, how do I get out of this? So he filed a motion to dismiss his case. And he probably thought it was going to work. But unfortunately for him, it was denied on literally every single count. So he had no choice other than to appeal, plead guilty, or go to trial. Now, following this, Nick has recently gone on a bit of a copyright claiming spree, despite comments he had made in the past directly saying that, everybody's free to clip his content. He's not going to go on a copyright DMCA spree. He's not going to do this. But now when he's directly asked about people clipping his content, he's like, well, I'm shitting my diaper. Oh my God, my diaper's so full. My name's Nick and my diaper's so full, and I also love cocaine. And that was just me translating a little bit here. I don't know if you guys understand Nick Rakatachu speak, but in actuality, he was like, hey, you do not have permission to clip anything from my locals chat, okay? My private, base, conservative, red pill chat. You do not have permission to post anything from there, okay? Take it down tomorrow or I will take it down myself. And this is obviously extremely ironic considering how Nick has talked about this in the past.
I'm not fighting with any clip channel. I'm not striking any clip channel. I'm not telling any clip channel what to do. Ever.
Now, obviously, it's fine if you change your opinion on something over time, even if it's a completely shit opinion. But when a lot of people were rightfully upset at Nick over this, he just straight up said it wasn't even an opinion change. And then basically admitted that he's just abandoning all of his principles he's upheld in the past because it's not convenient for him at this time. Nick abandoned every principle he claimed to stand for, and now he's on a full-blown descent into madness. No one gives a freak about my principles. They're just weapons in waiting for people who have no interest but to destroy. My principles were extensions of courtesy. My rights on loan to others. They abuse them and do not share the same principles principles. I owe them nothing. And obviously this kind of message only made people even madder at him. And it actually inspired one person who had previously leaked some DMs from Nick to leak even more DMs, revealing some very juicy info about him, which is, I think that we have found the number one squirter of the day here, maybe. Essentially, what the DMs revealed were about him wanting to pay a pregnant stripper, I didn't know that was real. He wanted to pay a pregnant stripper $1,000 and totally not fucking anyone else at this well-known popular swinger location we just talked about, anime and cooking. One of the female dancers who we really liked got pregnant, which meant as soon as management found out, she was going to be fired. We were trying to get her contact info to discreetly give her $1,000 for medical expenses, because that goes a long fucking way in Jamaica. It goes a long way in Jamaica. I bet it does. So I reached out to some of the male dancers who I talked to about anime and cooking with to try and get her contact info. This next quote is a really special one. I really enjoy being naked in places where it's appropriate because I like me and I like me naked. Just do it in your fucking house, bro. Like, do it. You know, you can have the balls out on the couch if you're watching the game. You know, I get it. Balls out, Bud Light in your hand. Well, maybe not Bud Light, but you know, just something, okay? You can have your balls out. Do it in the privacy of your own home. Do you need to be naked in front of weirdos talking about anime and cooking? I'm just imagining Nick Rekieta like standing at a party completely naked. He's just thinking like, I like me. I like how I am, around a bunch of other naked people. He's like, hey, did you see the new episode of My Hero Academia? Yeah. It's not good, man. Now, this former mod then responded, expressing the general sentiment from his fans about his hypocrisy and how much he's pissed a lot of people off. You made it the internet's business when you streamed from your hotel room at Hito. You told all of us about the trip. No one forced you to do that. All you had to say is, I'm going on vacation, see you all in 2 weeks. But no, you had to mention some vague details which made the internet curious. I think you loved the attention. Any publicity is good publicity, right? What happened to your values and principles? You used to be a free speech absolutist. You would talk about how horrible Mundane Matt and others were for flagging people down. So your word really means nothing. Most recently in the world of Nick Rekieta, he's actually no longer authorized to practice law anymore. They were like, nope, you're done, buddy. You're not a lawyer anymore. Even Saul Goodman didn't get disbarred, okay? What's going on, big guy? Nick truly cannot catch a fucking break. I mean, look, it's deserved. Like, he made his own bed and now he's laying in it, but still, like, Jesus. I literally watched this guy's life decline from his peak when he was getting like 100,000 people watching him on live stream talking about Kyle Rittenhouse, talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and now he can't even practice law legally, and all of his fans hate him. It's sad, dude. It's his own fault, but it is sad. But funnily enough, it's not like he was officially like disbarred. It's not like they were like, all right, we're taking away your license to practice law. The reason why this seems to have happened is because he didn't do enough CLE credits, which is basically keeping up with the law. Or the other reason could be because he didn't pay the fee to keep up with it, which might be even funnier because this guy's been bragging about how much money he has, and it's like $274, which is a lot of money. But to him, it should be chump change, right? I imagine he's just so buck broken by what's happened lately, and he just doesn't care at this point. So he's just like, fuck it, I'm not gonna renew my license. I don't care anymore. My life's already over. At this point, I think there's only one real conclusion that I can draw about all of this. Magi-chan is real, and we collectively on the internet have managed to summon forth from the ether some sort of parasitic, tulpa-esque thought form filled with pure malice and spite that latches onto anyone who dares speak its name and wear the accursed medallion. So far, the demon has ruined the life of Chris Chan, then it moved on to Ethan Ralph, and then Nick Rekieta, even having seen all of this, decided it would be a good idea to wear the medallion. He didn't decide to back down. He was like, I actually think this is based and cool. He spoke the words of power and he wore the fucking medallion. Like why do that? Imagine being whatever extraterrestrial demon this is and being brought forth from the sulfuric pits of the underworld only to be tethered to a Chris Chan Sonichu medallion and forced to ruin the lives of stupid internet people. I mean, it's better than nothing, but you know, I think even Hellraiser deserves a little better. Now, Nick Rekieta is kind of an interesting case here. I'm gonna coin a new medical term here, as I am a doctor, I'm a psychologist, I am practicing. I'm also gay. New medical terminology here. We're gonna call it Patrick Bateman syndrome. I'm pretty sure this phenomenon actually has a medical name. It might. But you know what? I like mine better. Basically, a situation arises where someone who has had very little struggle in life gets even less struggle and gets really famous from doing one relatively, you know, somewhat impressive thing, which is like, you know, internet fame, right? But at the same time, they haven't had any struggle and they haven't faced actual consequences for their actions. They haven't learned that you can't just get away with fucking anything you want, right? The reason he was rewarded in the first place wasn't because he was doing whatever he wanted online. It's because he was doing a very specific thing. He catered to a certain audience and he had a certain image that he upkept, being this family man from Minnesota who's a lawyer, who's kind of a YouTube outsider, but he's coming in to cover these internet cases. So Nick had a relatively easy life. He got big from internet content, but then he just wasn't satisfied. So it's almost like he acted out on purpose to get attention, just to feel something. I mean, like that one commenter said, right? He could have not even revealed anything about this sex party thing he was going to. He could have like not even said anything about it. He could have been like, yeah, I'm just gonna go away for a few days, got some stuff to take care of. But instead, he breadcrumbed information for people to guess at and try to figure out what was going on. It's like he wanted them to know. But for Nick, when nothing he did felt like it had consequences, it actually felt like he could do whatever he wanted. So it would have no impact at all. Doing something weird and not being immediately punished for it made him get really high on his own supply, and he felt like he could go on with that forever. And the actual consequences only happened when it was too late to reverse course, and his reputation was ruined because he was investigated for child neglect and he had coke near his kid. Now, obviously, there was a lot of assuming and filling in the blanks here that I'm doing. I am kind of reading between the lines here, speculating what his motivations are, but seeing all the money he's gotten from his inheritance, the fact he was a rich kid to begin with, which, make no mistake, I'm not like a poor guy, okay? I grew up in a very nice household, but just kind of speculating on the kind of person he is, seeing that he came into a big inheritance, he didn't really have a lot of struggle, he kind of got to meander for a few years before YouTube fame, and then when that took off, it took off really, really well, and it was super easy for him. I think it's kind of a safe bet to say that this guy just thought he would be fine and invincible forever, despite the actions he was taking. Now, the results of Nick's case are still unreleased, they're unresolved, we haven't seen how that has gone in court, so we'll have to, wait to see how that pans out. I don't know how it's gonna go, but I definitely think that some kind of punishment is probably deserved for Nick, considering the fact that, you can't be acting this way as a father when you've got this many kids. You can't be doing drugs like this on stream, off stream. You can't be running around like a fucking degenerate all the time. Like, when you're a dad, you just can't be getting up to that kind of shit. It's not good. It's not a good example to set for your kids, but it's also just not gonna make you a good parent, But it remains to be seen how this all goes. For now, all we can really do is wait and see who the Sonichu demon claims next. Fuck. Oh, I'm sick. I'm gay.
Gay!